Our first fantastic speaker tonight is Shammi. She's a Shammi is a Dubin Fellow, an MPAID candidate here at the Kennedy School, and an MBA candidate at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. Shammi was raised in Bangladesh, an MIT-educated environmental engineer. She is passionate about international development and plans for a career addressing poverty challenges using business, technology, and design. Her talk is titled Design Thinking for Everyone.
Thank you, Robert. I just wanted to mention how much effort Robert put in making sure he gets our names right. And we all, being from many different international countries, really appreciate that. So thank you, everyone. It's quite intimidating to be up here in this big room, but I'll get right on to it. So my talk is called Design Thinking for Everything. And I'm really interested and passionate about talking about design because last year I flipped. Flip is a term that you use when, at a certain point in your life, everything to you becomes a design challenge. You start seeing everything through the eyes of design. Everything is design. This room has a design. This room has a user experience. It could be improved. So this for me is how I flipped. I started seeing everything through the eyes of design. I'm going to skip text. I'm going to go to the picture, which I think really embodies for me what is design thinking. So design thinking comes from, can you see it? There's a lot of light.
Lower the lights.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah? Yeah. So design thinking comes from basically product design, engineering design. For decades, engineering design was just about meeting specifications. The bridge has to hold this much weight, the machine needs this much power. But design thinking became popular when design teams started to incorporate anthropologists and psychologists who began to give feedback of how users interact with these machines and these products that engineers were coming up with. And I love this because on this side you have a beautifully engineered machine, but on your right you have a human-centered design machine. And can people tell what the right one is for? They're both the MRI CT scans, but this is for kids, right? So user experience for a kid and that thing is terrifying. It's fine for us, but from a user experience perspective, that's terrifying. And that's how you apply design, human-centered design, or design thinking, or just design, to make something that's at the intersection of engineering and also user experience. Design thinking at the core of it is a process. It's a problem-solving process involving these 4 steps, and you'll see different terms, but essentially they mean the same thing. And at its core, it requires divergent and convergent thinking. So you need to think divergently or creatively when you're in the first parts. So you need to observe, you need to go out and observe your users, how they live, how they interact with their environment, with their product, their lives, their sorrows. This is where you need to observe. Ask a few questions, step back, and just observe. You still need to be very creative at this point. Because for us, observe means like do market surveys. That's really not that's not design. After you've observed, you go to ideate. Again, you need a tremendous amount of creativity. You need to come up with hundreds of ideas. No idea is too silly, no idea is too small, no idea is too serious. And I struggle with this part. Like, I'm an engineer, I'm an MPID. It's not easy for me to be creative. It's against my very nature. But then, when you have your hundreds of ideas, you need again to come back. You need to narrow it down. You need to converge because you need to prototype. There's no easier word for prototype. It comes directly from engineering. And this is where you need analytics. You need constraints. It could be cost, it could be size, it could be time. So using your constraints, you need to kind of limit your ideas to what you need to prototype. And after you prototype, you need to iterate. You need how to improve your prototypes or what prototypes to discard, and you kind of repeat the cycle again. So I'm just going to share an experience. Again, all of this was theoretical for me. I had some experience with design at MIT, but again, it was a class and I got a grade. I was happy. But I think I flipped last year when I finally actually used it for something useful. Oh, the process doesn't look like a little beautiful diagram. It looks like that. So yeah, you need to be very comfortable with confusion and uncertainty and ambiguity, and that's just how it is. So this is a design brief / design challenge. This is what you get when you start a design process. You have a big open-ended challenge. Okay. So you had a big open-ended challenge, and that's how you start with observation, you start ideating. And for us, this was when I was working in Bangladesh. The challenge was Bangladesh is one doctor for 3,500 people. This is one of the worst ratios in the world. But again, this is on average. In the cities, it's much better. So in the rural areas, it's much worse. So on average, it's about 40 to 50,000 people who have access to a doctor. And typically people, so doctors don't want to live in rural areas, there are no schools, no electricity. They just congregate in urban areas. So most people just get treatment from these rural medicine shops. So our challenge was, how do you connect rural patients to all these doctors who want to sit in the cities? So first we began with observe. So these are all pictures from my design team back home. Some of them are me, some of them are my colleagues. Again, the first step begins with observation. And everyone in my design team, including myself, urban born, urban bred, many of us studied outside. We have very little idea of what rural life is, rural healthcare is. And this was, I think, the hardest thing for us to really empathize and sit and observe and understand. We spent hours and hours so these are pictures from marketplaces. This is where a typical medicine shop will look like. This is where people get health care. So we didn't go with questionnaires. We just went and sat. We just went and sat and waited until people forgot we were there. Because that's when you start to see how naturally people behave. That's because what people say and what people do are very different things. We had homestays, we lived with families, we dressed down. I wouldn't dress like this. We didn't wear sneakers, we wore like sandals. So there's a lot of thought when you go into a field to observe that you need to really blend in and not be obvious to people. Then you go back to your office, you have all these millions of observations, and you go back and you ideate. And you'll see whenever this design thinking comes out, you see these thousands of postscript things. That's basically you have an idea and you just keep posting it on the wall. And one of the things that's in the literature and just, is trying to be visual. That's a very core part of trying to be creative. It's very unnatural. You think it's like you need to learn how to draw, but it's not. But again, when you force yourself to do that, you see a different part of your brain being activated. So, we observed, we ideated, we came up with lots of ideas, and then we have to move to prototype. We made an app that the rural healthcare provider would use when a patient came to him. He would put in the information, send a call to a call center in the city, so the doctor would get the information in real time, could talk to the patient, could talk to the medicine person in the village, and then prescribe something, either medication or what the next course of action would be. So this required a lot of prototyping first, how the app should look. These guys don't know how to read very well. How does the patient feel coming and talking to a doctor in Dhaka? So there was a lot of prototyping that went on, and it's still going on. I'm out of time. I'll finish in 30 seconds. Again, you can see a bit of evolution of the app where a lot of it was textual, and gradually you kind of need to base on the tests and the feedback that you get from your users. Again, when you're testing your prototype, you have to go back to observe. You don't say that, hey, do you like this? Hey, isn't this awesome? You just leave it there and you just watch, sit and watch, and you see what people do with it. Because when you ask them, you come from a city, you're so nicely dressed, they're going to say, oh, this is awesome. mimic that. For me, the biggest challenge is trying to be creative. And I mean, I'm currently not on the design team at HKS, so how do I keep my creative muscles moving? Sometimes I try to take notes by drawing them. So this is from a lecture that's talking about how host society, where people use hose, versus a plow society, where you have to farm using plows, can affect gender norms. Because even after a woman has a baby, she can